Welcome back to Synchronicity Talk Radio for your mind, body, and soul. I'm your host, Marie Bernard. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope that you're having a lovely holiday season. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy everything, Happy winter. And today we are speaking with Dr. Bernie Siegel. He is the author of A Book of Miracles, Inspiring True Stories of Healing, Gratitude, and Love. Welcome back to the show, Dr. Bernie.
Hi, thank you. I don't know if you have a question, but I was thinking of something mystical that happened to me that many years ago when I was going through turmoil as a doctor because of not being trained to deal with loss and all the things you couldn't cure and so forth. And Elizabeth Kubler-Ross asked me to draw a picture for her, and I did, and I was amazed at how much she knew about my life. An example was she asked me what I was covering up. And I said, why do you ask that? She said, because you put snow on a mountain. And I said, yeah, it's a mountain with snow. She said, Bernie, the page is white. You took a white crayon and added a layer. So what are you covering up? And it was all my feelings. But in the picture, there's an inner guide that I met in a meditation. You're walking down a path, someone comes to meet you. And he's got a full head of hair, a beard, and a gown, and his name was George. A couple of years later, I'm giving a lecture, realizing I wasn't giving a lecture. It was coming, as my wife said, from God knows where. But it had nothing to do with the outline, my notes, or anything. I just talked for a couple hours because I realized it's better than what you put together. And afterwards, a woman came up and said, I've heard you before, that was better than usual. And the next person said, standing in front of you for the entire lecture was this man, so I drew his picture for you. And it was George. And he's got a big beard. I mean, there's no accident when I say it's him, when you see what this person drew. And after speaking at a funeral a year or so later, and it's interesting, both these things happen in the same building, which was a spiritual retreat. There was a funeral there for a Christian friend of mine. I spoke on Sunday. And a mystic named Oliver Worrell, knew him, was there. She came up to me standing in an empty hallway and said to me, Bernie, are you Jewish? I said, why are you asking? Because I speak at a Christian funeral? She said, no, there's a man standing next to you. And it was George. She described him again. Now, you'd say, how did that happen? How could that be? But again, it's something I've experienced. And when somebody hands you a picture, and I have drawn a picture also of him, and you look at them, it's the same fella. And, so I think that this is true of all of us, whether you call it consciousness, your spirit, your guide, whatever, but it is there if we can communicate with it and get to be our true selves. And that's not easy, hey, I got troubles, in my life, with family, kids, grandchildren, things are happening, but when you can, again, get back to that, how do I quiet my mind, whether it's meditation, yoga, whatever, I hear voices, and I follow them when I know it's coming from a higher source, because some wonderful things have happened when I have responded to that message that I hear.
So, Dr. Bernie, let's talk about, because you have some books about clearing your mind and mindfulness and meditation. So, and you mentioned at the top of the hour about getting in the flow of life, and that's where the miracles happen, when you're in the flow. So how do you get into that flow?
Well, that's what I like, when you live in your heart, magic happens. You see, two of the stories in the book, and many of them touch me. Well, let me say three of them. One, as a couple is engaged, the woman develops cancer, and of course starts going through all the treatments and what's happening, and she says to her future husband, because he's an unusual guy who doesn't immediately take off and leave her, which a lot of men do when their wife or girlfriend develops cancer. But she said to him, I'm sorry I've become such a burden. And he said, when love is involved, there are no burdens. So follow your love. Say, what would you love to do? And that includes who you marry, what jobs you take, volunteer, whatever it is. Now, in the stories, one of them are a couple who were discharged from the Army and are going to drive from the West Coast all the way to the East Coast and home again and act like tourists and enjoy the trip. Their car, every time they come to a hill, starts slowing down. It just doesn't have any pep or energy. And so they're holding up traffic and causing problems. And to me, this is where the key issue is. To stop troubling people, they decide to drive at night, which makes their day a problem. You know, they can't visit places, celebrate, because they're sleeping during the day. But what they do is get on that schedule. And one night, they're driving through the state of Nevada. In the middle of the night, they come to a hill. They notice a car behind them. So they pull off the road as their car slows down. The car behind them stops next to them, which makes them nervous. But the man comes over and says, "You are driving a Pontiac Le Mans. I am one of the original designers of the car. I know what is wrong with your car. It has to do with the hose and sucking too much gas, and your engine is not having enough fuel." And he sticks a pencil in this tube and cures the problem. And they drive home and have a wonderful trip. Another is a child who moves to Germany with her family and learns that if you put your shoes out on Christmas Eve, Santa fills them with good things. So before she goes to bed, she puts her shoes out. Now her parents don't know she's doing this. She tells them in the morning she's going to go see what Santa left for her. And they say, "What are you talking about?" She said, "Oh, I put my shoes out." And they're thinking, "Oh, the poor kid, she'll open the door, there's going to be a pair of shoes with nothing in them." They open the door, and it's filled with chocolate and other things.
Wow, really?
Yeah, they're all stunned. What they learned later was, which disappointed her parents, but not her, because she still felt, you see, it was this miracle. The landlord of the building was walking out of the building, saw the shoes, and knew why they were there. So he filled them with all these good things. And that's the gift, you see. The couple is caring about other people, and so they have their miracle. If they said, "Oh, we'll drive during the day, screw other people, for slowing down traffic, that's their problem." No, we want to be nice to people. We'll go at night. Then they meet him. And just like this little girl who has faith and believes, yeah, her faith is reassured and the gift is there for her.
I love that, Dr. Bernie. And it doesn't matter that the candies didn't come from Santa Claus. It's just the miracle of generosity.
That the landlord was Santa's helper, if you know what I mean. You know, it's like no coincidence is the best way of saying it. It's not an accident that he shows up and has that happen.
I love that. So I'm curious how actually, on the topic of Santa Claus and Christmas, what did you tell your kids about Santa Claus?
Celebrated, Santa coming, and I used to leave, I'm laughing because I used to leave notes for the kids from Santa, telling them, "You better be nice with your brother, and no fighting, or next year I'm not going to bring you anything." And they would, because you see, with 5 kids, I have to tell you this too, I would play Santa at the local school. And because of the 5 kids, I knew all the other kids, see, so I would dress up as Santa and go there. And when I'd walk into a class and look over and say, "Jimmy, you have to be nice to your sister, I'm not coming on Christmas." And this little boy would go, "Oh my, how did Santa know about that?" And our kids knew it was me, and they had such a good time watching how the other kids reacted. But it was the spirit, of Santa. Because I grew up with a Jewish history, you might say, and background. And so, but see, Santa is, to me, is not about a religion. It's a gift. It's something to think about. It's the spirit that comes with it, how we help each other. So, yeah, our kids would have gifts and notes from Santa. As they grew up, obviously, they learned that Santa wasn't real. It was Daddy, our Mommy leaving things for us. But still, it was the joy of the event and all the holidays, and that we just celebrated together. So, as a matter of fact, see, my sense of humor, I was at the post office the other day, and, Christmas time, everybody's lined up mailing things. So I walked in and said, "That's why I'm an atheist." And everybody looked at me. I said, "Yeah, then I don't have to mail packages." and they all, then everybody lightens up and laughs and no, I'm kidding. But it's keeping the child in you alive. I think that's when more miracles happen to all of us.
And I love that, keeping the child in you alive. And let's talk more about your book, because we're here to promote it, A Book of Miracles, Inspiring True Stories of Healing, Gratitude, and Love. And, when you open your heart to possibilities and love and miracles, that's when things really start happening in your life. So do you recommend people read this book from cover to cover, or just open it when they're looking for guidance?
And I mean this, I've read it more than once. I can't remember every story in it, so it's fun to reread it. And they're short, stories from 1 or 2 pages, maybe 4 or 5. But and some of them, and then I have what I call my reflections. Before and after each chapter, I write about what's in it and what we can learn from it, and have it happen. And so yes, what I would say to people is pick it up, start on page 1, and every night before you go to bed, read a story or 2, because it puts you in a good place. And I think you'll have a better night's rest and better dreams. Several of them, as I said, we have a house full of animals. We always rescuing everything. And several of them are about animals. One I was just thinking about, because again, the mystical. This woman had a dog, I don't remember all the little details, but that she was really close to, and it dies. And something led her to adopt 2 other dogs. But she just can't connect with them. It's like they don't replace her lost dog. And one day she said she can't find them in the house. And she had buried her dog in her yard, which is something I do with all our pets, so they're still with us. But there's nothing there. I mean, these dogs don't know. But she said, I can't find the dogs. I look out in the yard, and the 2 of them are lying on the grave of my other dog, looking at me and asking me to please treat them the way I did the other dog. I mean, and again, it just changed her, touched her heart that they're out there. And so it changed their relationship and changed her. And I think that's such a, it just touches my heart. And how the animals teach us to, the animals and the children, I think, are the ones who teach us how to have miracles, because they're not worrying about tomorrow and next year, but about living in the moment, and then the wonderful things happen.
Dr. Bernie, did you hear the story about, I'm not sure if it was in Africa or it was some kind of wildlife refuge, where there was a dog and an elephant that were friends?
Because I think somebody sent it to me, where the elephant rubs his tummy with her foot.
Something like that, yeah. And then one of them got sick, and so they were separated. And then the other, I think, was the dog was really sad. And then they ended up putting them back to where they could interact, and they got better.
That's right. Oh, yeah. I mean, it happens in people, it happens in animals. I mean, I've seen people in the intensive care unit who were dying in the hospital. The family comes to say goodbye. Nothing happens. Their dog is brought in with permission to say goodbye. That's when the person woke up and didn't die. When the dog is put on somebody's bed or chest, and I always say, the dogs and the cats do better than wife and children when you get them brought in. Because, see, there's no resentment, bitterness, problems, with the pets. We're more forgiving of them, and they of us. And even, some studies, again, the benefit, you see, is it a miracle? You have a heart attack. Go home to a house with a dog, go home to a house without a dog. And in this study, if you had a dog in the house, a year later, 5% of the people had died. If you had no dog, 26% of the people had died.
Wow.
And what you realize, because studies have been done, if you pet a dog, I would presume any furry creature, your oxytocin and serotonin levels go up. Those are bonding hormones, but also much more healing hormones, in a sense. And there's a story in there about a lady with colitis who, during the pregnancy, no problems at all. And I think that has to do, again, with the hormones in the body, to accept this new part of you and not to attack your own body. And then the woman after the pregnancy, she delivers, gets sick again. So the baby is taken away from her and she's in the hospital. But when they bring the baby back, that's when she starts getting well again. And one story that was in the newspaper a few months ago down here in the U.S., a woman delivers twins. They're premature. They're put in, intensive care. She can't be in there with them. And one of them is dying. So they tell her, if you want to hold your baby, it's dying, you can hold it again. She takes the baby, holds it against her chest. It starts to suckle from her nipple and comes back to life. And that's the benefit of massage, of touch, to newborns and to anybody. So, I've seen this with one of our dogs, because there's a book out now called The Energy Cure, where cancer has been cured in people and in mice by the hands. And I've been healed of injuries by healers. But we had a dog who was supposed to die of cancer. His name was Oscar. And the vet said, I have never seen a dog this sick recover. He had a malignant melanoma. He said we should euthanize him. I told this to our kids, and they said, you don't put your patients to sleep, you're not putting Oscar to sleep. So I brought him home, and I loved him, massaged him, shared my meals and my vitamins with him. I mean, he was just lying on the floor, and I was feeding him with a spoon and loving him. And before I knew it, he had stood up, was on his feet eating, and a week later out the door with the other dogs. And he lived for years with no signs of cancer. And when I read the book about the energy cure, I realized that's what I was doing to him. I had cured him of his disease with my hands, my energy. The way I put it is, I'm not the source of the energy. I'm not the battery, but I'm the cables. And I'm bringing the universal energy and healing ability into him. And it happened.
Beautiful. And I love, there's a spiritual aspect to this, but there's also the scientific aspect of just touch itself raises your positive hormones.
Yep, yes. See, children, infants, who are fed the same amount, one is massaged, one isn't. The child who's massaged gains weight faster and the brain develops faster. And I know this as an adult when I'm massaged, how it relaxes me and affects me and my thinking and mood and everything else. So, we're made for contact and touch. What's sad is when people are brought up with rejection and indifference and abuse and not the love and the touch. Yeah, it takes its toll. Yeah, there was an article in our paper today that women who are sexually abused early in life are more likely to develop cancer later in life. You see, so again, the things that I was called crazy when I say to people, what's going on in your life? And these things are stored in us. A doctor a few months ago was telling me about this woman with a terrible problem, and nobody seemed to be able to cure it or fix it. And I said to him, get her to draw some pictures for me and just email them to me and let me look at them. And one of them was a heart, like a Valentine heart, but with a crack at the top. It's broken. And there were 20 drops of blood coming out of it. And I said to the doctor, ask her what happened when she was 20 years old. And the email I got back just reflected on what a disaster that year was in her life. And all those things are stored in her. To quote Alice Miller, our childhood is stored up in our bodies. See, and if we don't heal our past or abandon the past, the body finally presents its bill.
So, Dr. Berney, that's a really important, I want to take a couple of minutes to touch on that, because I know so many people. I'm also a survivor of abuse. I grew up in foster care. I've talked about it on the show many times. I, for the most part, do have released quite a lot of it, but there are a lot of people that I know personally who have had some kind of event happen in their childhood or their early adulthood that they just cling to so tightly, and they act out of fear of repeating this problem again and again down the road, even though the past is gone. They're essentially replaying it and recreating this drama constantly in their lives. And what, from a medical standpoint and from a Dr. Bernie standpoint, what is one or two things that these people can do to heal from that past?
I mean, to really understand they are the problem. I always say that the only thing we're in control of is our thoughts. So what I'm thinking about, I decide. And the way I put it is, because this happened to me after a robbery that occurred in a hotel room my wife and I were in. I mean, the door was open, somebody knew what we had in there and took everything. And I carried that resentment with me till I realized he's still robbing me. Because if you're spending a good portion of your day, you know, hating him and wishing you were back in the hotel and getting even and catching him, and so I let go of it. And, you know, one of the ways I let go was to say, you know, hey, if he bought his kids, because it happened around Thanksgiving, so Christmas time came. I thought, hey, if he bought his kids Christmas presents where he robbed from us, hey, I'll give him another $100, let him get something really nice for his kids. And I just let it go. That's it. And that's why I use the word abandon. You can abandon your past. Otherwise, people are still abusing you, robbing you, depriving you because of how you're spending your lifetime thinking about them. And when you, what I call reparent yourself, and what an abused and depressed teenager said to me one day was, "You're my CD." I said, "What do you mean I'm a CD?" She said, "You're my chosen dad." So what I would say, each of us love each other. Give the love. I didn't say you had to like what people were doing, but let them know they're worth loving, and that you accept yourself as worth loving. If you have baby pictures of yourself, put them up around your house and love that kid. That's a divine child, no matter how your parents or others treated you. But the authorities in your life are hypnotic, so they can give you... See, if you're hypnotized, that's part of why it's hard to get rid of it. There's a book called Biology of Belief, how a parent's words up to the age of about 6 are really embedded as if it's a hypnotic trance in your brain because of what the brain is like. And so it can be hard to come out of that, but you can learn meditation, you can get into therapy. You know, there are ways of getting it out instead of just blaming. And I'd say one more thing, what I've learned is there's some people who enjoy, as crazy as this may sound, their illness or their abuse because that's what gets them attention. Say, if I didn't have this history and I wasn't complaining or I weren't sick, nobody would pay attention to me. But you need to find the love and the nourishment in a healthy way. So think of your trouble as hunger. When you're hungry, you go get something to eat. You don't like how you're feeling, ask what nourishment do I need in my life, and go ask for it.
Beautifully said, Dr. Bernie. And well, it's just about time to wrap up the show. So I first of all want to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy Hanukkah.
Thank you.
And
hey, if people want to get in touch, I don't know if you were going to mention it, my website is Bernie Siegel, SIEGEL, and they can communicate with me there if they have something they want to chat about.
Definitely. And you are on Facebook as well.
Yes, and, you know, all the books and tapes, if they want to order things or articles I've written, they can send me questions. It's all connected. Yep.
Wonderful. So, BernieSiegelMD.com.
Right.
Yes. And the book we're talking about today is A Book of Miracles, Inspiring True Stories of Healing, Gratitude, and Love. And is there anything that you'd like to say today for a Christmas wish or a end of the new year or end of the year?
When you're on programs, almost everybody, because I never stop talking, says to me, "Bernie, we're running out of time." I'd say that's the message I try to get across to people. We're all here for a limited amount of time. We're all mortal, so enjoy your lifetime and watch the gifts you then get.
So beautiful. Thank you so much, Dr. Bernie, for being on the show. I know you're such a busy guy, so thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Take care. Happy holidays. Aw. Well, I'm going to go back and listen to the show again and again on podcast.
You know, we all need to listen to ourselves. Helen Keller, blind and deaf from the age of 4, said, deafness is darker by far than blindness. So listen to others, listen to yourself, and you'll find the solution.
Thank you, Dr. Bernie. Well, you have a wonderful holiday and Happy New Year.
Bless you. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye. So again, that was Dr. Bernie Siegel. He is the author of A Book of Miracles, Inspiring True Stories of Healing, Gratitude, and Love. You can find him online on Facebook or on his website, www.berniesiegelmd.com. And just in time for Christmas, The Book of Miracles. And you can find him on Facebook as well as me. I am Marie Bernard. This has been Synchronicity Talk Radio for your mind, body, and soul. Coming up in just a couple of minutes is Parts Unknown. And again, I will be back for the first Monday of the new year with Anna Taylor. She'll be live in studio. And next week I'll be playing the Kwanzaa episode because the show falls on Kwanzaa, December 26th. And we've been speaking today about love and miracles and acceptance and just opening yourself up to all of the amazing possibilities that life has to offer. And since this is going to be the last live show of Synchronicity for the year, I just want to send my love to you and my appreciation to you for tuning in all year and being a friend and listener of this show. And I'd just like to remind you to take a moment today and open your heart during this holiday season and just feel that connection to the universe and that love for all of us, because we're all connected and we're all here just to really help and support each other. So I love you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will talk to you next year. Happy Christmas. Happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa, be well. I love you so much. Namaste.